And that's why
So
people,
there's your problem.
I kind of look at David Icke's analogy of the Queen's a lizard. When David Icke says that, I personally say, well, he's using that as a metaphor, and because he's a showman, he's not going to show you, the smoke and mirrors to the magic trick. He wants to get people, a large audience, to hear his message. That's his way of doing it.
Like, it does mean that.
All right,
literally.
Right.
Does that mean that it's totally invalid then? Because
I would just say to him simply, show me some evidence, factual things. Show.
No, maybe it's built as a metaphor in his head, but he genuinely believes it.
Well, then
is that a problem then?
It could be. So. It could be. Maybe he's descended too far into his own imagination of things.
But the point is still
real
there.
World it.
The point is still there for others to interpret, isn't it? It's still productive in a way. Just because he actually genuinely believes that, it doesn't make him just totally crazy.
Well, Mark Passio will say, he elaborates on how the brain functions left, right, and then you got this midbrain, and this midbrain is not where the higher reasoning is. That's where the instinct and the animal emotions, and then you've got the autonomic nervous system, and these are just like flight and fight situations, adrenal glands, and things that don't include higher reasoning. When people are just scared, the higher reasoning just goes.
Mm-hmm.
And they start existing like a lizard.
It's an override, basically.
It is. And it's like, escape, or do this, or jump, or, you know what I mean?
Because it's back to survival again.
Right. Well, in a way, it's self-retardation.
Well,
by living in fear too much, as they are doing, because maybe they're wondering their whole life, are people going to wake up? Are people going to recognise? Are people going to stop falling for this? Why don't... I really don't understand their way of thinking. Don't understand it at all. It's callous. How can you have all of that and not want to be sharing it with everybody?
Because you don't have that capacity anymore.
Even
You've totally lost that. Because to do your job, you are required to harm people. So your brains, you've adapted to harming people.
Why are you required to harm people? That's not in their job. That's one of their choices. They've chose that choice, and they think there's only two choices.
I don't think anyone can have that much power and do good. That's what I think.
Power corrupts.
I think it has to spread to everyone. Everyone has to have their own little bit of power, and they can use that, and they can put it together to do something. Working together, that's fine.
Power corrupts.
But one person can't just take everyone else's power and be expected to do the task. It's impossible to accommodate for everybody's needs. So someone is being harmed at any point.
I'll say this, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Another way of saying that is alpha male corrupts others to want to be the alpha male. And then when given the opportunity, they do what the alpha male's always done.
10 people get together, they've got a task to do, right? They can all chip in their little bit of power and do it. Or they can give one guy all of it and say, right, there you go. You've got my bit now, you've got my backing, my moral backing and everything. You go and do it, because I can't be bothered and you want to do it. So you go ahead.
That's what recession means.
But some people, like one person in the room, might not just can't cater for them. Because you tried every option and you thought it through. But either way, it's going to harm a certain number of people. So you go for the one that harms the least number of people. But you're still doing harm and you have that guilt. So you do that every time you make this decision, over and over again. And eventually, your body adapts. And it's like, it's not quite feeling this guilt anymore because I have to do the job. So it just does the job. So that's what they're built for. They're built for the job, which is harming people. And then once they lose that guilt, then they might as well harm 5 people if it benefits themselves.
Well, can I answer that another way of looking at it? From another vantage point. They've said a word. Now, they're crafty. Obviously, in their world, they know what it means. When they say there's a recession, when you look at the legal definition, it means to cede back power, to the first government from which power was granted, whether by cessation or otherwise. So when the people vote, they're giving up their power for someone else to represent them. So that's why they think they've got power to represent that and be 10 and 20 people and 20 men. You've heard that saying, he's walking like 10 men. Well, they literally are. They're walking like 1,000 men. You know, representing, and then other people start believing in that system and saying, well, he represents all that, so we got to do what they say, because otherwise we'll have these 1,000 people on our back for not doing what he's saying. That's the myth of it. That's the fiction of it. It doesn't actually go like that. You know, because we're not all psychopaths like they are. You know, the power they have has corrupted them. There's no doubt, because all forms of power corrupt a human being. You just get used to it. It becomes a habit.
I've just explained why.
Yeah.
Because to do that job, they've become that.
Yeah.
To compensate.
But that's because they've limited their choices. Whether it's on purpose or we've helped them along the way.
They're born into it as well.
I believe, though, we're also part of that problem, because we've allowed it to go on for so long. How could they believe that it can go any way different? You know, they said, well, there's always been a president, there's always been a king, there's always been a queen, there's always been a parliament, and we've always done it this way. Yeah. Alpha male's scared to share his rock.
Not anymore. I've had enough of that shit.
You know, they don't want a race of supermen, do they? It's like they're saying, it's like, wow, is Hitler a liar? Because Hitler says, well, we have a race of supermen. They're saying, no, we got some supermen, but you're not in it. You know what I mean?
Kind of.
Right, I hope you know what I mean. Because it's hard to discuss this.
Thing.
Yeah, because they have an overarching ambition to be the ruler of everything, to be gods, to be, go down in history, self-importance, all of that. Maybe we all got a bit of that.
Yeah, but we have overrides. It's called emotion and empathy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
I
start.
want good for me. Yeah. So does everyone, but I also want good for others, because I can relate to them, because they're another human being. But if you don't have that, if that's gone, then you don't care about anyone except yourself, do you?
No.
And that's exactly what it is. That's the only way I can understand the position they're in, because they couldn't have that emotion and that empathy and do these things.
Right.
You can't do that. They would fucking lose it, and they would stop doing it because they can't handle it.
You know, so I'm sure, because the Queen's married. I don't know how that marriage works, but does she love her husband, or did she love him at one time? Does she ever know love? And maybe it's some other guy she had. I don't know. I'm not gonna start shit stirring. The point is love. Okay. I hope she knows what it is, because then I've got something I can relate to her.
Exactly.
You know. Otherwise, we're not relating in any way. And my God, man, I just want things in this world to move forward, and I know that's the answer, and they know that's the answer.
And people who I can't relate to, I don't want them making decisions for me, which is essentially what government is.
Yeah, well, they've proven themselves untrustworthy, and they're going to have to do a lot to get the people to trust them. And even if the people trust them, listen, it might be game over in that game.
I don't think people would ever trust them.
Well, there's some people that's like that, and I feel sorry for them people too, because they'll live their life in just as much misery as those who've caused the misery.
Because they're angry, though.
That's why Christ talks about forgiveness. Forgiveness is so powerful. If you can't forgive...
But I understand it. I understand the anger. I understand that.
You'd die internally without forgiveness. You'd die internally. You know, it matters, but it don't matter. Live and let live, still. Of course you want them to accept what you're saying, but sometimes some people are coming at them so ferociously. That's where their fear is. And then because they're in fear, your whole reaction is magnifying it. In just the same way they know to manipulate fear themselves, they are victims also to their own trickery. You know? And I wish they'd just stop, because it's time to stop all of that. Human beings have all these forms of communication. Why can't we talk directly to the Queen, say on the internet, on Facebook, and she respond as a human being if she's got the time? Because I couldn't. Yeah.
This is my point.
And in a way, me even asking the question might be giving her too much. Supporting her self-belief that she is this almighty, when really I've got to be looking to myself for the answers, aren't I? But do we know how to go to where the answer is? Do we know how to go to the machine city, as it were, and say, give me some love? Do we know how to go to the bank and say, give me some money? And let's not start with all this rubbish, yeah? Because that's not how life is, yeah? And you're not going to take life for some fiction, yeah? You're going to be a human being about all of this. And we're all going to try to do the best that we can.